Well, it is Friday, everyone. And you know what that means. It is the Friday 15. I'm Steph Lee, founder of Host Agency Reviews. And you are tuning in 12 p.m. Central Time, where we answer your industry questions. So we have a lovely co-host on today. Hello, April. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. How are you?
Good. For those that don't know, April Swales is with Uniglobe Travel Center as the director of marketing and sales. Is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
So when it has the ands afterwards, I get a little bit, sometimes it loses me. I'm like, I can remember one thing, but ask me to remember two. It's just too much.
I call it smarketing because, the two together.
And you're
they
smart.
go hand in hand. Yeah. So.
And you're super smart. That's why I would call it. I'd be like, I'm super smart. So it's marketing. Well, let's see. So first things first, let's go over our announcements. As usual, for the last month, I've been saying this, but our EduSpots, our call for speakers is open right now, and it is closing next week, September 15th. So if you have something that you would love to teach other advisors, the EduSpot is an amazing way to do that. Last year, we had over 2,500 registrants to Host Week, and so that might scare some of you. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to encourage you. But 2,500 people register, but it's a great way for you to get your voice out there as an expertise and to share the success that you've had within your company. And the nice thing is you're not in front of 2,500 people. So this is a great way to do public speaking, test yourself out without actually having to be in front of 2,500 people. And you can pre-record it if you're someone that's super, super nervous. So if you are interested, you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/speakers, and it will take you to the application and have tons of information if you have more questions on it. Or you can scan the QR code that just popped up.
Excellent.
Yes. And last thing, along with that, so EduSpots are part of Host Week. If you're not interested in speaking, but you are interested in attending, make sure to go ahead and register. And you can find out more information and register by going to hostagencyreviews.com/hostweek. Or if you're watching the video, we've got the QR code. I just feel so snazzy when I do that. So April, we've got 2 questions in because, as I mentioned before, Bob's, our second question, is very in-depth. So
okay. We'll work with it.
Let's start with our first one with Tasia. So Tasia F is asking, I love to travel and I currently have a great career, but would love to start a travel business on the side that I can use for travel and make money from also. I'm constantly having people from a certain MLM, and those scare me a bit. And for those that don't know what an MLM is, that's multi-level marketing. Pyramid scheme is another very common term for that. So then Tasia continues on. I'm pretty tech savvy and will defray some costs, but I'm not looking to add a bunch of new monthly expenses. Can you recommend a host for me where I can learn and still be taken seriously? So let's break this into 2, April. First, let's talk MLMs, multi-level marketing. For people that don't know, do you want to explain what MLM is or a little bit about them, or do you want me to?
Sure.
Either or works.
Either one. And I'll go. And then if you think I've missed something, then fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But essentially, whenever you work with a multi-level marketing company, your pay is not just based on what you're selling, but also a downline, which is where that pyramid structure idea comes in. But, I guess that could be a good thing if nobody goes anywhere. But if you end up missing or somebody ends up leaving, that's a huge chunk of your income. So, ideally, if you want to have true autonomy as a business owner, your pay is based on your efforts and your work, not necessarily everybody else's underneath you. But
yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to share a couple things. So first up is I'm going to share my screen, which will show you Host Agency Review site. And what I want to show you is if you go to the host agency list, so on the front page, just say that you want to go see a host agency, and underneath our filters, under host type, so we have something what's called an MLM hybrid. And if you filter for that, that'll show you kind of who the main, I have a feeling I know who the MLM that's trying to recruit her is, and I'm sure you probably do too, April. But that'll give you an idea of who the MLMs are. But then we also have an article. So if you click on any of these, we have a link to our article that we wrote about MLMs. And I think the big thing for people to know about MLMs, and this is someone called it like an expose. And I think that's actually a great way to describe it because it gives really in-depth information about travel LLMs. And my thing is they're not my thing per se, but they're not inherently bad if people know what they are going into them. My problem with them is they very much misrepresent a lot of things and take advantage of people that are that tend to have financial problems, and they'll have all these promises of making all this money. And so what we did is we did like this really in-depth look at things. And one of the things is travel MLMs will do income disclosure statements, which aren't required by law, but some of them will put them out. So we call them MLM hybrids because what you will hear when you call if you call one of the MLMs is they'll say they are a host agency. And that is true. Like technically, what I always consider a host agency is when there's an agency that shares their accreditation number with other independent contractors underneath them. And so, yes, they are a host agency, but they'll say they're not an MLM because they'll say like, oh, we're host agency reviews, but host agency reviews 2 is our MLM arm. But they'll call it their marketing arm, and they'll say, oh, host agency reviews 1, we're actually the host agency. So they're not related, but they are very intertwined. And there's the reason I would tell people to be careful about the MLMs is just they have a strong reputation within the industry. They do a lot of bookings, in all honesty, but that's because they literally have 70,000 people signed up for them. So even if half of those make a booking a year, it's technically a large amount of volume. But are there people that are actually booking? No. And then I'll also show you too with these income disclosure statements. So on the article, what we do is so this is Planet Marketing, which is the MLM branch of IntelliTravel. And you can see that this was for 2019. 77% of their people earned nothing. And there's a pyramid here where 23% on top earned something. Now that something could be 1 cent. And so then we also broke it down by the average income for people that made something of that 23%. And it's $140.57 for that year. Versus the annual cost of membership for Planet Marketing is just under $1,000. And so you can kind of see the disconnect there. And a lot of the money comes from bringing people into your downline and not from selling travel. So those are things to be aware of. I'm going to link to the article, but that's something I think the article digs really deep. Mary and I spent hours and days digging into the MLM world. And so take a peek at it if you would like to learn more about it.
Yeah, that's a great article.
Yeah. Now, April. So the other part of the question from Tasia is she's wondering how to recommend a host where she can learn but still be taken seriously, but not have to have a huge amount of monthly expenses. So maybe can you walk us through Uniglobe, monthly expenses, and any advice for Tasia as she's looking for a host?
Absolutely. So our monthly dues are going to be different for our GDS advisors versus our non-GDS advisors. But I'm assuming Tasia's new to the industry, so we're just going to go with our non-GDS. So those fees are $60 a month. And they're going to cover various tools and resources like access to our accounting and support teams, access to our coaching staff, access to our network and Virtuoso resources. We provide a website for our advisors if they want to take advantage of that, a CRM, digital marketing resources. So they get a lot for that. We don't charge any annual fees. We just have our upfront training cost in the beginning if she's brand new. And then after that, as a business owner, she gets to determine what makes sense for her to invest in and when she's ready to do that. We don't have any sort of requirements there. We also don't have any quotas or minimums. So, as she's going, her fees are very clear and she knows exactly what to expect each month based on, what we told her from the beginning. So there's no hidden surprises or anything like that. Now, you'll see host agency fees all over the place, right? Yeah. And it all boils down to, what does she want her business to look like? These host agencies that are way up here, there's value in that because they're looking for a specific type of person to come into their network. They're building a specific type of business. And then you've got some that are mid and lower in fees, and they're also great for the the person that's a good fit. So I always tell people, there's no one best host agency. It's whatever is the best one for you. And one of the things, I'll tell you 3 things that I tell people to look for. So ideally, you want your host agency to be a member of PATH, the Professional Association of Travel Hosts, to avoid things like multi-level marketing companies and things like that. But there's pretty rigorous standards. So you can go to just PATH, PATH 4 hosts.com, and you'll be able to see what those requirements are and then who the members are. So ideally, you want them to be a member of PATH. Second, you want to look at the overall productivity level of the advisors in the network. And thanks to your website, they can see on those profiles, what are the annual sales of the agency, and then how many contractors are in that network. So by dividing the sales by the number of contractors, they get a good idea. Of course, it's an average, but a good idea of the productivity level. And if you see higher average sales volumes, then you can pretty well bet that those advisors in that network are getting the tools and resources that they need, but they're also taking the business seriously. They're building something profitable. They're not just here to occasionally book travel or get the perks. I mean, we all love the perks, but if you're going to build a business, there are host agencies for that. And then if you just want to kind of book here and there, there's host agencies for that. So that's why I tell people, those things are important to look at. And then, of course, the host agency business model, whether it's a host only versus a hybrid versus an MLM, those are the things you want to look for. So, but you got to get really personal with yourself, really answer some tough questions with yourself about what you want to build.
Yeah, because there's the objective and then there's the more subjective things that are a lot harder to figure out.
Right.
So a few things. One of let's see, today is the 8th. Okay. So our hosted advisor report just came out for 2023, which every year we do an annual survey, and many of you have taken that. So thank you. And I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek on this. So I'm going to pull this up. So startup costs for advisors. So Tasia, when you're kind of like, I'm willing to put out some money, but I don't want to spend too much. In our new advisors section of the report, we have the startup costs for new advisors. So you could see like on here, for those that are listening in, what we're looking at is the average is $2,800 to start up. Now that is very high. And the reason that is high is because franchises cost a lot more to get started because they're giving you that business in the box and the brand already that has consumer recognition. So they run anywhere from 10 to 30,000 to get started. So they really skew our average. So what we do is then we also look at as the median, which is the middle number between all the people that have submitted responses, and that's $1,200. So that's a lot. I would say that's a lot more reasonable and what you could expect. And then the most common answer people gave was $1,000. So I would say if you plan to spend about $1,000 getting started, somewhere within that range, that's going to be about average. And that's what like mentally you should be kind of preparing yourself for.
Right.
And then there's a lot of other stuff within here, a lot of other details that we have within the report. So we're going to we'll do a link to the report as well, so people can take a look at that, which is really exciting. I know. I've been in it the past 3 weeks and all this data, and my mind is very, very full of numbers. Now, if you ask me any of the specific ones, I would not be able to tell you, but I could tell you I looked at a lot of them. So we will link to that. But Tasia, hopefully that's helpful. I'm also going to link to our article on finding a host agency because we have a really helpful download for an Excel sheet that can help prompt you with those questions that April's asked, like telling you that you really need to be reflecting on. It can prompt you with some of those that you might not have thought of about different costs and what's important to you with your host agency. So we'll also link to that for you. And then I'm going to link to PATH, which April mentioned as well. Whew, so that's a lot of linking. Let's get into Bob's question. And here we go. Okay, so Bob, I know there's no such thing as a dumb question, but I more than likely have one. Here goes. I'm considered making the jump to be a travel advisor, and I have 20 plus years of marketing, advertising experience, and 10 years in the tourism industry focused on leisure and business travel. I'm thinking about my niche, and I think primarily I would focus on my passion and offer outdoor experiences, but I have a good amount of potential business that I have strong contacts with for corporate travel, team building meetings, etc. Do advisors ever utilize two company names and brands? For instance, if I name my company Bob's Outdoors Travel Adventures, it would be a tough stretch to effectively market the corporate travel side of the business. So the question is, do host agencies allow multiple company names? He knows that he'll have to set them up with a DBA or a doing business as. So do host agencies allow multiple company names, and do they allow multiple websites? Sorry to ramble on, but any advice would be appreciated. So April, what do you guys do at Uniglobe?
So we would, if he had two different business names, it would be a little tricky for our accounting department. So we would probably have him set everything up with a single business name and have everything go through a single agency, which is, that's going to be easier for him too with his taxes. However, websites, he can have as many websites as he wants, because we do offer a website program, but we don't require people to use ours. They can do whatever they want to do. So if he has, part of his business advertised on one and the other, that's fine too. My advice, though, would be for him to choose one or the other, because leisure and corporate travel are two very different beasts. And, if the bulk of his client roster may initially come from corporate, he might do really well starting there. Another question for him would be whether or not he has experience on the GDS, because I would recommend that if somebody who does plan to have a successful corporate agency, either get trained on the GDS or, there's a lot of ways they can do that, but eventually they're going to want to have access to the GDS, whether they hire somebody in to do that or they themselves get the training. But as a leisure advisor, he doesn't necessarily have to have access to GDS to be successful. Mm-hmm. And he needs to think about where his passion is. I mean, if his passion really is on the leisure side, in the long run, is he going to be happy trying to divide his time between two different beasts? Because both are going to take up a lot of his time, and it's kind of hard to be something for everyone. That's why niching is important. I won't say it's everything, but it is important, because, and sometimes it'll happen organically, right? But if you're trying to be something to everyone, it's really hard to be successful in one particular area.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to link to an article on the GDS Global Distribution System for anyone that isn't familiar with it, that will tell you a little bit about it. And Bob, it's very common for agencies. I wouldn't say like super common, but the leisure corporate thing is not that common. What is common is, say, somebody that has a fun and sun destination agency, then they'll have like a romance division for destination weddings and honeymoons and things like that, because they complement each other and it works out well. And I think just whenever you're going with host agency, so April shared exactly what Uniglobe does in this situation, but I would check with the host agencies individually, because they all, especially with the website program, depending on which website their program and how it has it set up, they may only allow one agency name per website. They may only be able to do that. So that would be something I would be concerned about. But for everything else, I think the host agency is mainly going to have you just sign up with one name. And then what you do on the consumer facing side with your DBAs and different branches, that's kind of your own thing. They'll just have you sign up with one name. And I think that'll be easiest. Yeah, I think that kind of covers everything there. So let's see, April, I'm going to link to your profile on Har. Do you have, what's the best way for people to contact you? Do you guys prefer social, website, emails? What do we got?
So there is a link on our Har profile to schedule a meeting with me. And that's all the way at the bottom. If they click that, it's going to take them to our contact page on our website, right to my meeting calendar. So they're more than welcome to reach out to me that way. That's really the best way, so that I have a dedicated 30 minutes set aside. Nobody's playing phone tag. But they can also reach out to us on our social media. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. And I monitor those channels. So it'll still come to me. So either way, it doesn't matter. Or you can just email me directly. It's just Swales, ASWALES @uniglobetravel.com. And I think that information might be on our Har profile as well. So
Yeah, I think when they send the message, I'm gonna put the direct link to schedule a call, so they can visit the profile for more information. But that way, you can schedule a call pretty easily. So I'll put that in there for everybody, and then looking forward. So host week, no, not host week. Friday 15 co-host coming up. So next Friday we have Nexion. They will be co-hosting with us. That's also again when those host week speaker applications are due. And then September 22nd we'll have KHM on as a co-host. So if you have questions for either of them, they're both host agencies. Fill those in. You can go to hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. That will give you can sign up for email alerts. You can watch or listen to old episodes. And you can find out who the co-hosts are, who the questions are, see all the show notes. It's everything all in one place. So April, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy chatting and catching up with you.
I know, it's such a blast. And thank all of you for joining us today on your busy Friday. I hope you have a lovely, lovely weekend, and we will see you all next Friday at 12 p.m. Central Time.
Bye.